The guys you know and trust, talking about the teams you can't live without. This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, The Zone. We are joined now by Kurt Schmid, Chief Soccer Officer for Real Salt Lake, running the front office. Kurt, good morning.
Good morning.
Kurt, I don't really want to ask this, but I feel like I'm going to have my sportscaster license revoked if I don't, and it's the number one question I get whenever anyone starts talking RSL, and I'm sure you get it all the time, so I'm sure you have an answer handy. How's the search for the number 9 going? How you doing looking for a proven goal scorer? How's that looking?
Look, it's going great. We've got some really good options on the table. It's always a challenge to make sure they tick all the boxes, and that's what we're going through right now and trying to get the deals done. But yeah, we've got some good options on the table right now.
So with the team actually playing games and they count the standings and all that stuff, how much does that factor in terms of let's let this thing play out a little bit here?
I think we've got already some idea of how it's playing out, and I think we'll continue to see that over a couple of weeks, because obviously things don't happen instantaneously, and so anyone we sign will take a week or 2 or 3 to get eligible. I think it's a good opportunity and a platform for some of our younger players, and especially the 2 strikers and Ari and Forster, to just show what they can do in the meantime. But we know we need to add something else to that group as well.
I know the phrase is winning through development, and I know sometimes when you're developing, that's going to limit the winning in the short run because you're busy developing. I'm curious what you think of those 2 young guys, because they both are young and they're both new to the league, and there's an adjustment period. If you're coming from Australia, we get all of that. Can they approximate Anderson Julio's production? Assuming you bring in a number 9 here, can they be the occasional starter coming in for 20, 30 minutes at the end of the game and produce what he produced for you over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd compare him one for one with anyone, and I would also argue with your contention about winning and development being a sliding scale in a zero-sum game where doing one means you're not doing the other. But I think those guys are good young players. Obviously we brought Ari over from Australia, at a young age, and he didn't have the longest track record, but we see something in him that we feel very comfortable in continuing to develop, and we think he's got a ton of potential. They're both vastly different players than Ando, and so the comparison isn't quite there. But as far as production's concerned, I think both have the potential to produce in them. Absolutely.
In our conversations with Pablo, he goes into in-depth. He's a great interview because he really makes you think on what he's saying. And you talk about these younger guys. It seems like he and the staff have some experience in being able to coach younger guys and help them develop. How much confidence does that give you as a management that these guys will come along? Because it seems like the coaching staff, based on prior experience, has an idea of how to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a critical element, or skill set for being a coach in our club. And whether it's head coach, assistant coach, whatever, we're gonna have young players on the roster, and we need to make sure we bring them along. That said, coaches can do what coaches can do. And they can help work on IDP and do video and set the tactics out and do lots of things to create a framework for players to develop. But also at the end of the day, minutes, meaningful minutes are what develops players as well. And, sometimes that's even a bigger factor, right? Because you need to have the experience of doing things on the big stage in front of lots of fans, in those high pressure moments in order to develop those skills. So, it's always funny to sit back and say, well, this guy is proven, that guy's proven, this guy's done it at this level. Well, at some point, those, every single one of those guys that we want to say that about wasn't right there, and needed to gain those experiences. And, we're a club that, we've got obviously some key older players, and we have some tent poles around the club and the team and the formation, but we also want to have those young players and be a club that gives those young players those experiences so we can develop, those types of guys. And you're starting to see that with a guy like, Diego Luna, Luna, who's now making a bigger name for himself on the national stage.
I want to go back to the winning and development thing. I want you to flesh this out a little bit. In my mind, I know what I'm thinking, and you may not agree with that at all, which is fine. That makes for good radio, so go nuts. I think that when you hear that winning through development, people may not use that phrase, but across all sports, we certainly see it. And sometimes the organization is about 30% about the winning and 70% the development. Some are 70% about the winning and then not so much into the development. And ownership okayed spending a lot of money. And there was like an 18-month span there where it seemed like you guys just kept bringing in somebody else, and that was the most expensive player they brought in. Now this is the most expensive acquisition. And it paid off last year. The most goals the club has ever scored, the most points the club has ever had. But now you've moved some guys on, and so how much of a valley is, and I guess it goes back to ownership because they're the ones that have to write the checks, how much of a valley are they willing to accept when development looks a little more important than winning, which to me right now, early here in the year, that's what it looks like. You could announce something with a number 9 and I could have a new opinion, but that's where I sit right now.
Yeah, look, ownership has invested, and that trust that they've put in us comes with responsibility to be wise with that spend and also to, at some point, create some sustainability. So, there's a lot of attention on obviously Chicho and Andres Gomez, and Andres was someone we bought and then sold for more money. But we also have players like, Brian Ojeda, who we bought and now, he's growing with the club, or Diego Luna, who wasn't as expensive, but we bought and is growing with the club and becoming that veteran with us as well. So, we've got to find the dual pathway there. And what I'll say about your development and winning comment is just, this is my 17th season in MLS that I've been working in this league. I have seen countless, quote, veterans make rookie mistakes, in every single one of those seasons. And everyone maybe feels a little better about it because the guy is older. But the reality is my feeling, my philosophy is always, I'd rather have a rookie make a rookie mistake because at least there's a chance he might learn from it, rather than a veteran who's been in the league maybe, 5 to 10 years make the same mistake, which results in the same outcome for my team in the short term, but has no payoff in the long run.
So how much time do they have to spend teaching then?
Who's they?
Your staff.
Everybody takes their own time, and the reality is the best results come from guys that take responsibility for their own development, the guys that are constantly seeking out. I mean, we call it growth mindset in other fields, right? The guys that are always looking to expand their horizons. Hey, I watched this game on the weekend that wasn't even our game, or here's my clips, tell me what I need to do better, and then ultimately the game is the best teacher. So there's no real set time frame where we say, oh, this kid's going to take, every kid we bring in will take, 12 months and then they're ready to go. Some kids might take 1 month. Some kids take 2 years. You don't always know. But it's very correlated with their hunger to learn. Again, not to bring up too many names, like Emeka Anelli is a guy that came in, and his adaptability, his hunger to learn, those are the things that served him well. When I was in Seattle, we drafted Christian Roldan, and it was the same thing. His best quality as a young player was his adaptability and his coachability, his ability to learn, and his hunger to learn things. So those are the key attributes we're looking for in young players.
So yeah, man, you just hit a lot of things. I don't even know where to jump in on. That was great. I thought I got to ask him more about that, and then you hit on two or three more good things there. I guess let's go with this because you mentioned Diego Luna. Number one, the fan base really likes him, and they were incensed when he didn't go to the Olympics. But I'm thinking from the club's point of view, yes, that's bad for Diego, and you can have sympathy because you know the guy and you know he's disappointed. But you didn't lose him. You had him then. He wasn't away with the Olympic team for a long time. Plus, did that not put a huge chip on his shoulder? I mean, that just seems like a nuclear power reactor of energy for him. And whether it's the way he played for the club at the end of the year, the way he started this year, what he's done with the national team, it seems like even though that was negative for him in the moment, it's been a huge positive for him over several months, going on almost a year now.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something that I probably should have mentioned a minute ago, which is another key attribute for young players is how they deal with adversity, or for any player really. And Diego's reaction to adversity was fantastic and has been fantastic. And we started last season, at the beginning of 24, putting our trust in two young players that were largely unproven, and both of them rewarded that faith. And so it's good to see that. But yeah, I mean, along with hunger to learn for sure, and adaptability, it's the ability to overcome adversity or what are someone's reactions to adversity, which, is an actually really interesting dovetail with kind of how we play tactically and how important, reactions are to losing the ball or to things not going as we plan and how the players react to those things. So it kind of is the microcosm of that as well.
So you got Minnesota this week. Should we plan on both teams scoring the same amount of goals? Because that's what seems like it happens every time you play Minnesota.
What, 0?
Well, you played 1-1 and 2-2, but it's 6 straight draws. I mean, the penalties, there's a winner and a loser because of penalties in the playoffs, but after 90 minutes, you guys are routinely tied 6 times in a row.
Yeah. It's sometimes tough to explain. I think they've become a team that's really, really well organized and very difficult to break down, and been very difficult for us to break down. But likewise, I think we've also been difficult for them to break down at times. So there's been a lot of stalemates with them over the past year. What I will say is, it's a new season. Teams change from year to year, even if the rosters look similar or look the same. Everything, there's little tweaks here and there, and that all affects how things happen. We did play these guys in preseason, and there were more than 0 goals, so we have that. There's still some hope there, but yeah, it's a tough game for us, and we know that we have to maintain our organization in the back to keep it tight and not give them anything in transition moments. But we know that we need more and a little bit extra than what we had at times last year against them in order to break them down when they're in a low block.
We've talked to you about the serious side of soccer and your job. I don't know how much you're into the show. Obviously, the fans are. But does anybody do a better job than Minnesota? The way they've got the song at the end of the game. They do the thing with Freddie Mercury at the start, the concert at Wembley, Live Aid, when he's warming up and he lets the crowd kind of answer him and repeat what he's done. And they play that. It's like people get to the stadium early so they can sing with Freddie Mercury. It's like, I don't know if anybody does the show better than Minnesota. I don't know how much you even pay attention to that when you're at games, but it surprised me when I saw it. People were way into it.
I tune it all out. I don't know, man. Like okay. I wouldn't say I'm a ball of nerves or anything, but I would say that I'm just like I've got a little bit of a distraction going on, and worried about things that I can no longer control in the moment. But that doesn't stop me worrying about them. Yeah,
there you go. All right. Well, Kurt, thanks for a few minutes. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again. Good luck going forward.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, there's Kurt Schmid. Yeah, so I get it. He's not into that, but, man, the show is important. You always talk about it's a TV show, and for the TV show, they want a good studio audience. So how do you warm the studio audience up? And they use Freddie Mercury. It's a big old karaoke concert.
There's a guy in town who thinks that 20 minutes of Queen led by Freddie Mercury is the best 20 minutes in rock and roll live history.
I mean, that's a matter of taste, but I get why someone would say that. Certainly in the discussion. I don't know how you get an absolute on that. This is best, that is best.
You'd have to talk to him.
Yeah, which guy would it be?
I don't want to say his name.
Could I guess? Am I guessing?
Yep.
Okay.
But I countered with, I'm going with the Beatles rooftop concert. Well, it's longer than 20 minutes. I know, because it was better.
It was pretty wild because the stadium was on fire. And as much as the energy translates to the players, I guess that's important. But it's really important because people are paying a lot of money to be there, and they want to have a good time. And you can't control if the team's going to win or lose. So you try to make the show around it good, and then the outcome is what it is.
The entertainment factor. So you're taking Freddie Freeman or Freddie Mercury? Or maybe even Freddie Whittingham?
I'll take Freddie Whittingham. He's funny. He can usually say something self-deprecating that'll make you laugh. He's got a good sense of humor.
That's 3 good Freddies right there.
Those are 3 good Freddies.
Or Freddy's Burgers. Freddy's Steak Burgers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, my dad was a Fred, but he was never Freddy. I don't even remember anyone calling him Freddy. They didn't call him Frederick, which was his given name. It was just Fred. But how about Fred McGriff? See, it wasn't Freddie, though. Again, he was a Freddy. Yeah, it wasn't Freddie.
It's got to be Freddie.
Yeah, he was Fred. Fred McGriff had a sweet swing, though. That was
The guy at my wedding party was Fred.
Oh, yeah?
But nobody ever called him Freddie.
Freddie, yeah. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. I bet Kurt was glad he was gone for that little random bit of business right there. When we come back, everything you missed in this show next. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Greatest era in BYU basketball and football. BYU's football team, who finished their Big 12 play at 7-2. They finished the season 11-2. And now this BYU team goes to the Sweet 16 the very same year, their second year in the Big 12. And because I started to think, okay, what are the great years of BYU basketball? You go straight to Danny Ainge in 1981.
BYU was coming off a great year in 1979, and all of a sudden Jim McMahon's their quarterback. The guy's a star, but they pull off the Miracle Bowl win. Danny Ainge leads BYU to the Elite Eight. One shining moment, do you know where that all really started? The 1981 NCAA tournament. One of the reasons why we have what we have today was because of what Danny Ainge did. That year, to me, with the star power of Jim McMahon and Danny Ainge, combined with what those teams accomplished on the field/court, puts them number one.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. For all of you, less motivated listeners, it's time for your 9 o'clock. Where the heck have you been headlines?
Where you at?
With DJ and PK on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Time to get you up to speed on everything you missed in this show. The Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Just heard Isaiah Collier. I hadn't thought of him as a Rookie of the Year candidate, but I suppose he is. Castle with the Spurs. Just looked up the odds. Castle is the favorite. Isaiah Collier is one of the top 6 in the odds, so for whatever that's worth. More interested in the rebuild, though. When do the Jazz get back to the playoffs? Let the individual honors fall where they may.
Well, since we're on the subject of Collier, where does he fit into the plans of, not just right now? I know he's going to start the rest of the games unless he gets hurt or whatever. But what do they think of him? What's their evaluation? Because 2 years ago, I thought Kessler was pretty good, and then Danny Ray just basically rained on that in the postseason.
He did rain on that.
Yeah.
That's fact.
Yeah.
However, Danny Ainge might be here to push a button.
There's no question about it.
Push a button now and then.
Yeah.
So
no, I got it.
And there's truth. There's a lot of truths. And so how much was he, like 30% being honest, 50% honest, 70% honest?
Well, we have the benefit of retrospect and seeing Kessler's played well this season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we won't have the retrospect of Collier 2 years from now. Yeah. I'm just wondering what they think of him in terms of what is he? Is he a backup? He can give you 10, 15 minutes a game? Is he something that they think, hey, man, he these kids are so stinking young now that when he's 25 and he's got 5 years with us and the improvement that he can make and that we can help him make, we think there's something there. Or is it in between? I don't know. Collier has been a story. He's a story this year. On a crappy team, he's a story. And I like the fact that he's only 20 and he's making mistakes now and he's aggressive. And he's got size and speed, and he can take a hit and still get off a shot or get to the free throw line if the shot doesn't go in or make a three-point play. I understand his shooting needs to improve, blah, 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 blah. There's no doubt about that. But what do they have in him? You got to look for storylines or else what's the point?
What are we doing?
Yeah. And, I'm not going to obsess over the results night after night, because the results are exactly what I want them to be. But he's a storyline. Flipper's a storyline. What do they have? What do they think? I wish their management would talk more often.
No.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Right.
I mean, Will has to be out there because NBA coaches. But as far as when you say management, front office types.
Yeah.
Danny Ainge twice a year and Jay-Z a couple more times than that.
I think those guys should be more accountable to the fans.
I completely agree with that.
Publicly, not privately when you're telling guys or gals who show up over there, but they can't really say stuff publicly because you're giving them confidential information. It's a tricky balance that reporters have to play because you never, ever, ever want to burn somebody. It's just not worth it. I've got 40 years of experience on this. I know what I'm talking about. Rarely do I know what I'm talking about, but this is one of them.
I think that it's easy on the surface to say right now the safest prediction is the Collier is an NBA backup. It's only 1 year. We've talked about Kessler, the 3-year arc when you come into the league. So what are Collier's next 2 years? And the second easiest thing would be to say, well, that's what I think of him now. Let's see where he is in 2 years. Where it gets complicated is when they're talking trades this summer and somebody wants Collier. And now it's like, well, what can we get back for him versus what's he going to be? That's where the rubber really meets the road.
You don't have 2 years.
Not for that conversation.
Right, and those conversations, I think, are had all the time, or at least fairly regularly, particularly as we move towards the draft. It was a great pick. That we know for sure.
Because of how late it was and the fact that he averaged 9 assists for a month. His assists are going down now, but you always have to consider with assists, okay, who are they playing with? Sometimes it's easier.
More guys,
Right. And they're sitting more guys, so the assists are going down. But in February, he was over 9 assists a game. And in January, which he specifically pointed out as a good month for him, well, from December to January, he doubled. It was clear that he was seeing the floor, understanding the rhythm and pace of the game and the space on the floor. Everything was becoming clear to him.
Assists individually can sometimes be an overrated stat.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many factors that go into things.
And how generous are they with an assist when they give it?
Now, I have to make sure I am in no way defacing what Stockton did.
Please do.
That has nothing to do with it.
Make that very clear.
He's a Hall of Famer through and through.
But if John were sitting here, he'd tell you the same thing. I literally heard him say this about steals. It was a different conversation, so he didn't talk assists, but he's asked about steals, and he says, you have got to consider steals within the context of the game. You can go for steals and gamble and put your team in a bad spot.
Right.
You can also study film and know this guy's going to do this, and he's going to spin. He's not going to know I'm coming, and I'm going to pop the ball out.
Oh, you had to go Jordan, huh?
Oh, I wasn't, but I did, yes. I wasn't,
the most painful play of Jazz history?
I think that's pretty clear. Yeah. I think that. There's a lot of bad memories with a lot of Lakers, but I don't think there's one moment with the Lakers. No. There's a lot of bad memories, but that's as close as they got to the title, and they're so close to winning Game 6 and forcing Game 7. Yeah, that's the moment.
With a beat, everybody on that team on the team.
But see, that's another thing where turnovers are a team game. Malone had the ball, so he gets the turnover.
It's not about
Malone. But if Stockton waits a second, Jordan can't keep hovering because Hornacek's headed out the other side, and Stockton can hit Hornacek for an open shot. Jordan could only hang out for so long.
Yeah, but I'm never going to put limits on MJ.
Okay, you don't. But
he could have waited. He could have gone and stole the ball from Hornacek. I don't know what he would have done. He would have done something.
I didn't know that about that play. That didn't occur to me until somebody told me, and they told me because John told them. John said Carl takes heat for that, but this is what I should have done.
I don't think he took any heat.
Carl?
He shouldn't have taken how can you take heat of something you can't see?
Yeah. But John was like, I just shouldn't have thrown the ball to him until.
Yeah, but it was MJ.
It was. MJ made a great play.
He's going to make a play anyway.
But I think Stockton felt like he made it possible for MJ to make a great
but there's
play.
No guarantee they score on that anyway.
No, I mean, he could have thrown it to Hornacek.
100 different things.
It could have gone out of bounds. Hornacek could have fumbled it, and they recovered. He could have hit the shot. He could have missed the shot. Who knows?
Rodman could have done something stupid, and Jerry leaps off the bench, runs over there, and decks him.
He was waiting to do that for a long time.
And I would have loved to have seen it.
I always wondered if someone snapped on Rodman, would it be Stockton or would it be Jerry? I just saw something. It's out there on YouTube, and it was about Stockton's greatest moments or something. And the video didn't quite match what he was talking about, but they needed video where he was really passionate.
Stockton was a San Antonio game.
And of course it was. In San Antonio when Rodman
He's sitting on the bench, and he calls him a stupid SOB. You can hear it.
Yeah, because Rodman had cheap shotted him when he was cutting through the lane, not looking.
100%.
Yeah. And he started screaming at him.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great moment.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Legendary. Legendary teams, legendary moments. And hopefully, and I don't like the word hopefully very much, but hopefully
we get some more of those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, those kind of stories.
That's what fans live for.
Absolutely.
That's why you're a fan. And I may have to wait till 2030, 31. I've been informed this morning that I need to sign at least 2 more deals.
David Locke did tell you that. You said you wanted to do 5 years to see where these young guys go. You're intrigued by the drafts you feel are about to happen.
That he went.
And the timeline, yeah. And David's like, no, you got to be here 10 years.
I went, what did I go, 28, 29?
Yeah, end of the decade, basically.
Or was it 29, 30?
I thought it was 29, 30.
Okay.
It should be 5 years from now.
Yeah, I think 5 years from now, there better be. I think there will be good times, but there better be good times. That's an 8-year rebuild.
The thing is, it's the hope and the expectation.
These aren't the Clippers over here.
Define good times. Oh, better not be. Haven't had a front row seat to that circus in San Diego.
14 years of Warriors.
Yep. That was bad.
10 years of Phoenix. No playoffs, 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 3.
Right.
See where it goes.
I define good times. Winning. You can have good times without winning at all.
Right, but when you start to see the arc climbing, and then when you hope, and like the Spurs aren't doing that much better with one leg down, but they have Castle, they can see.
And
Spurs fans can see where it's going. Yeah.
So they've got to get past the Popovich situation to see how that is and get some more stability there. And it looks like they'll be fine. This franchise has had plenty of good times. And you haven't won it all. I get it. But you still have had some great times along the way. The Mitchell, Gobert, Ingles, on and on. Those guys had some great times. Those were fun times, man. And they'll have it again.
We talked a lot about BYU this morning. Fun times, 26-10. This team goes in the books, 26-10, Sweet 16. Third in the Big 12.
That's a good season.
Tied for third in the Big 12 because they were the 4 seed.
They tied with Arizona, right?
Yeah.
When they beat in dramatic fashion in Tucson, you'll take that every year for the rest of your lives.
Split 2 games with Arizona, and you both went out in the round of Sweet 16. You both gave up 100 points. There was a lot of points scored in the NCAA tournament last night.
Well, you're getting great teams, great players.
Yep.
3-point line.
3-point line and teams that want to play with that tempo, that pace. The ball's going up.
And I think that's the way the game is largely played now. Kids that's what they grow up with.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have these things. These kids are playing since they're 5 and 6 years old, and then they get in there at 18 years old. Oh, we're going to change everything. They're not even going to go to that school in the first place if you're going to change that.
Unless the NIL is really good. Look at you, University of Houston.
Yeah, but I think that they play an aggressive style.
They do. That part's fun. Their defense.
Yeah.
Right. And they dominate teams, and they can feel it. And they score more points than they used to. They are more offensively gifted than they have been. Right. And they've also been unlucky. They've had injuries along the way to derail them.
They had a critical injury last season.
Yeah.
See what happens this year.
But Duke looked awfully good. And Florida looked awfully good. I'm trying to think which order Houston would draw them.
I don't know.
But they'd have to play them both to get there.
Yeah, okay, so be it.
Yep. To bring it on.
I would love to see a Duke-Houston.
Duke-Houston game? Let them battle it out.
With the offensive firepower that Duke has, Flagg is a generational franchising type player, and that's why we're going to get him.
That's why.
Mm-hmm. It's coming our way. It has to, man.
Are you doing good radio now, or did the commissioner notify you of the plan? How can you know the unknowables?
Well, because there's nobody
if I said
at
this,
the top.
You'd be screaming.
No. I feel
you
it,
don't
man.
know this.
I feel it.
You can't know this.
Okay, that's like, unless you had a revelation from God himself, there's plenty of people say, I know that there is a God and all that. That's the way I feel it. I just feel it. It's just gonna break their way. I just feel it, man. And it's time. And I saw something out of LeBron where he was talking about basically acknowledging or hinting that the lottery was rigged for him to go to Cleveland, for Ewing to go to New York. And there was one other guy he put out there. I can't remember who it was. Well, there's not anything among Charlotte, Washington, and the Jazz who screams out that Cooper Flagg going to any of those three places is beneficial for the league in the way that Ewing going to New York was beneficial for the league.
No, they would have to look at of the bottom four teams. I see your point. Theoretically, maybe Washington could be that team, but their ownership's a mess, and so they would just.
It's all about the Commanders there, especially now with Daniels. Are you kidding me?
The fifth worst team in the league is the Brooklyn Nets. What if their odds hit?
No,
he'd be in New York.
Well, no, because that's too long ago, too long to go. You can't have the fifth worst record and then get the first pick.
Sure, you can.
No.
The odds aren't that crazy.
No. It's not. That's not going to happen. Don't look up any freaking odds. It's just not going to happen. No, it won't happen.
I want to say it's like 8 or 10%.
And besides,
like
that going to Brooklyn is not the same thing as going to the Knicks.
That's 100% true, and I buy that. Brooklyn right now has a 9.7% chance of drafting first. What about Philly putting him with Embiid? That's a historic franchise.
Embiid is hurt every third minute.
9.8% chance there.
No, that's bad
if
for the
you were going
league.
Conspiracy theory, Philly and Brooklyn.
No,
because I get your point about the other ones. Those aren't sexy destinations. But Green Bay wasn't either. And look at the money the NFL's made off Green Bay.
But don't ever compare the NFL to the NBA. That's an insult to the NFL. That's an insult to every sport.
Still a small market that made it big.
Yeah, but they were a historic franchise too. It's like they
have been good back in the 30s
we talk about with hockey.
Yep.
Green Bay. It's so small that's why it's so appealing.
But there was 20 years where it wasn't appealing.
Because they sucked.
And the NFL kept growing by leaps and bounds. They could have just blown them off like the Decatur Staleys
what did they give
or
them?
whatever other team.
What did they get that was so good?
They've got they got Hall of Famers.
Brett Favre,
but they didn't.
Pete Rozelle
they didn't
up there.
draft. They didn't get number one the year Peyton Manning. Yeah, I mean Favre was actually drafted by Atlanta. That was a trade.
And
Reggie
Roselle's
White was
up there saying Brett Favre. He didn't even know how to pronounce his name. Go listen to it.
Go listen to it.
Yeah,
they did help him out. Once you give him the card, this is how this is pronounced.
Well, it's awkward. It's like go pronounce.
But you can spell it phonetically.
Right.
And then it's not hard. I mean, it's 5 letters.
Right.
They
but I'm
clearly
saying
did
it doesn't. I don't blame Rozelle.
Yeah.
It's like everybody who isn't from here. What town do you have to go through to get to Zion? Well, Hurricane. Yeah.
I pronounced it wrong on the air the first time I said it.
No, and how we knew if you had no connection to Pedro, you call it San Pedro.
Not local.
Yeah, you knew. Okay, You're not one of us. Get out of here.
Yeah. The main street getting my house was Hamishaw, J-A-M. So do you turn on Jamacha?
Yeah.
It's Hamishaw. It's not Jamacha.
Yeah, the first time I saw Toledo, I called it Toledo.
Yeah, but you still do that, to be fair. Most famous resident of Toledo that we have ever had on this show.
Jamie Farr.
Absolutely.
Is he still alive?
I think he is. And I remember he was hilarious. He was very funny.
And then he emailed us, thank you, Patrick and David, for having me on the show.
Okay. You didn't have to do that, but
yeah, that was impressive.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Klinger was awesome to us.
Yeah. Imagine that today.
No, can't really imagine that. It's not how things work.
Kind of a hot, hot topic there.
Didn't really work that way. Oh, yeah, with Klinger? Yeah, that would be a hot topic.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
All right, baseball started, and you thought Ice Cube, that was good by the Dodgers. Again, to the show. You can't control the winning and losing in the game. You want that to be good. But is there a show around the game?
The fans loved it.
Yeah, Ice Cube in an old car. All the people with their phones up.
Everyone.
Literally.
He's driving down the left field up against
left
stands.
field to third base, the warning track.
Dirt.
Yeah, there's the warning track all the way around.
Yeah.
So someone chasing a foul pop
And the
nose.
workers got their phones out as he drives by in this old, huge car caddy with the trophy. And then he gets out. Oh, and he's a local dude.
Yes. He's an L.A. star, but he's not someone who moved to L.A. at 20 and became a star.
He went to the same high school where my wife taught.
Right. So
in the hood, as they would say.
So when you see some celebs and they go to their Laker and Dodger games to be seen, but growing up where he grew up, he's got to be a Laker and Dodger fan. And you got to be.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Minutes from the stadium.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was cool. Whoever thought of that, bravo. Everybody went nuts. Players loved it. Everyone loved it.
And then Shohei hit a homer, and the Dodgers won. So basically,
Mary
everybody
Hart
got everything
loved it.
wanted. Of course she did. Of course she did.
Sitting in the first row.
All right, DJ and PK, we're back with your feedback next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
The culture that we knew is gone. And it is being replaced by guys who are willing to leave the NBA to go do the college job, because in the past, college was an unthinkable job. You want me to recruit? It's horrendous. It's horrible. You have to cheat to do it right. Now you don't have to. I think we're going to see this more and more. I just think Utah's early on this. Wes Wilcox is not going to be the highest ranking NBA front office person to take a college job 12 months from now. I think we're going to see a real infiltration of this.
What's his role? Drafting guys? I don't know. I don't think the NBA thing's going to work there. Maybe that's why I'm down on this thing. I don't think the NBA sales job, I don't think that's going to work at Utah. I really don't. I don't think because he goes, oh, I was the assistant GM in Sacramento. All of a sudden, AJ DeBonta is going to Utah. I don't think that's...
No, I agree. I don't think that's part of it.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. And now, enough of us. It's time to hear from you. From all your texts, tweets, and posts. This is the best feedback of the day.
Ooh, oh, I was there. That's the best game of my life.
With DJ and PK on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
For the last time this week, I will tell you to nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. You can submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to the best, JJ and Alex, for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. Sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. What?
That's the way you sold that. Beehive Meals. Question of the morning. We had a couple of them. What's the equivalent of losing 8-0 in hockey? Clint O'Pete losing a Super Bowl 54-10.
Ooh. Yeah, that's ugly.
That'd be rough. That happened to the Broncos, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a Niner Broncos score there from back in the day.
Yeah.
Elway in Montana. We've got a CJ Real Hoops who says BYU 59, UCLA nothing. Take that. Maximus 720 says 14-0 in a baseball game.
14? Yeah.
Utah hockey guy says putting up 50 in football.
50. Utes put up 55, I think, 2 seasons ago against the Sun Devils.
Donovan Mitchellstan saying 113-88 in the NCAAs. See what they did there?
Yeah, you want to crack on BYU because you're jealous. I can feel it.
Probably. Jack says when some other radio station tries to rival the DJ and PK morning show, it just won't happen. Jack, you're sucking up to us.
I love you, Jack.
You're the man, Jack. Keep going. Don't stop now. Tweet at us again.
I'll give you 20 minutes to stop tweeting at us.
You're lucky I didn't say DJ trying to outwit PK on the morning show, but he spells wit, W-H-I-T.
Like Kyle?
Apparently, yes. Tell better Kyle Whittingham stories? Is that what he's going for?
I got a bunch of them. Someday I'll write a book about that old guy. Outwit, so wit would be W-I-T in that case.
Unless you're trying to reference Kyle Whittingham.
There is no word W-H-I-T, right?
There is not that I know of.
Yeah.
BYU was playing with house money after beating VCU. Great stepping stone for year one for KY. What can you say with Alabama shooting like it did? That's the response from Brett. House money.
No, not the first part. No.
After beating VCU? That was expected. They had to do that.
No, they were not. Nobody ever plays with house money unless you play with house money, but nobody plays with house money. Unless you go to a hotel like Mo Green was going to give Michael a bunch of chips, but he was there on business, so he wasn't interested in gambling, so they got the gals out of there. Come on. Come on. Scram!
Your ability to quote The Godfather at all times is good.
Michael got a little nervous there before he blew away Salazzo and McCluskey because he thought they were going to Jersey.
That'll do it for the Godfather podcast. DJ and PK back Monday morning. Jake and Ben are up next.